Okay, what we got here, we talking about measurement, which you have titled on your little piece of paper there. And the first thing we're going to talk about is our standard form, or the Us Customary System, as they call it. Customary. And the basic unit of measurement, well, the smallest one we really have is an inch. Again, I will go on record as saying the only reason we do this is because we are stubborn. Even the country that invented this system, which is England, has gone away from it many, many, many years ago because it is archaic, old, and really foolish. And you'll understand when, as we talk about this, why it is. All right, because I don't know where they came up with an inch, but if you really want to know, an inch is about the distance between the two knuckles of your pinky. If you're maybe an adult, you guys might be a little smaller there. And the problem with the inch is, back when they made this system, you know, in the olden days, like 500 years ago, they didn't really have to measure real closely. You know, they didn't have exact measurements, or if they did, if they had to get smaller than an inch, somebody said, well, logically, let's just cut an inch in half. Okay, and then they cut a half in half, and then they cut halves and halves and halves and halves. Well, we cut our inch, and you can do multiple ways, but we cut our inch into 16ths. We cut our inch into 16 equal pieces. And for purposes of explanation here, I took 1 inch and I blew it up so that you could see it really closely so we can talk about this. Okay, and here's what makes it confusing. Okay, every mark is what we call a 16th of an inch. 0 16ths, 1 16th, 2 16ths, 3 16ths, 4 16ths, 5 16ths, 6 16ths, 7 16ths, 8 16ths, 9 16ths, 10 16ths, 11, 12, 13, 14, until you get to 16 16, which is obviously 1 whole inch. But the problem is, 5th graders, that if you take a line and you measure it and it's this long right here, you are not allowed to say 2 16ths. And the reason you're not allowed to say 2 16ths is because there's an easier way to say it. If it's 2 16ths long, you have to use the word 1/8 of an inch. And the same thing is true here. If you go to 4 16ths, if your line goes to there, you're not allowed to say 4 16ths because it's easier to say 1/4. You never say I ate 4 16ths of a pizza, but you will say I ate a quarter of a pizza. So the problem comes with our system. You know, I'll tell you, when I was a kid and I used to help my dad work on cars, okay, back when I was a kid, all parts and car engines, all bolts and nuts, you know what a nut and bolt is, those things you twist and tighten, they were all measured in this. You know, and my dad would say, okay, son, go get me a 5/8 inch wrench. And I would go out there and I'd get him the 5/8 inch wrench, and he'd put it and he'd go, well, this wrench is a little too small. I need the next size bigger. Well, anybody know what the next size bigger than 5/8 inches? And it's not 6/8. No, look, here's 5/8. The next size bigger from 5/8 was 11 16ths. Now, how am I supposed to figure that out? How do I know that? Well, because you're measuring in 16ths, and 5/8 is actually the same as 10 16ths. But how hard is that? You know, in the metric system, everything's in millimeters. If he would have said, go get me a 10 millimeter wrench, and that was too small, and he said, get me the next size bigger, guess what the next size bigger from a 10 millimeter? It's 11 millimeters. How easy is that? But we sit here and we have to do all of this and all these. When you measure things, you have to make sure you're using the smallest amount, you know, the easiest fraction. 1/2 is the same as how many 16ths? Victoria?
8 16ths.
8 16ths. But we can't say 8 16ths. You have to say 1/2. You have to use these measurements here. When the line goes out to these places, you have to use those measurements. And that's where people get confused because, you know, they're all different. Some are quarters, some are eighths, some are halves, and there. So, with that being said, take a look at page, we're going to measure a couple lines. Look at page 278, just to give you a little practice with your rulers. And see if we can't come up with then I'll explain some of the directions here. Look at page 278. Do you see letters P, Q, and R?
Yeah.
Well, maybe not. Let's tell you what. Let's flip to letter J first. Now, the other thing that's going to confuse you is a little bit is the book, Marilyn. The book is telling you to measure to the nearest 1/8 inch. Now, what does that mean? Allie, say what does that mean?
What does that mean?
That means this. You are only using every other marker because 1/8 inch marks. Here, this is. Let me colorify it for you. If you're only measuring to the 1/8 inch marks, you skip every 16th, every other one. Here is 1/8. Here is 2/8. Here is 3/8. Here is 4/8. Here is 5/8. Here is 6/8. Here is 7/8, and there is 8/8. So if they tell you to measure to the nearest 1/8 inch mark, those are the only ones you're allowed to use. And the confusing part is this. If I measure to this mark right here, my answer is not in eighths. What does my answer have to be? This is 6/8, but I can't say 6/8. I have to say
3/4.
3/4. Confusing? Absolutely. So, looking at letter J, okay, their rulers cut into eighths, not in 16ths. So, letter J, if you count over, is 4/8 over, but I can't say 4/8. I have to say what, Colton? And you can look on your thing here. 4/8 is right here. This line right here is 4/8. What do I have to say? I can't say 4/8. I have to say. Sammy.
8.
Nope. I can't say 8/16. It has to be this black one, Sammy. 1/2. 4/8 is 1/2. 5/8 you can say, because that's the easiest. 6/8 you can't say. Maybe we should write these down. 3/4 is 6/8, but you can't say it. 1/4 is 2/8, but you can't say it. 1/8, 2/8, 3/8, 4/8, 5/8, 6/8, and you can say an inch there. Look at letter K. Letter K. If you're measuring that, it is 1 2/8, but I can't say 2/8. I have to say what, Nathan?
1 1/4.
I have to say 1/4 because that is 2/8 is this mark right here, and we always say the easiest fraction. How about letter L? Letter L. Who's got a measurement on that? It's 1 whole inch over, and then how many eighths of the next one? You don't have to measure; it's already measured for you. Frankie?
2 inches.
It's not 2 inches. L comes before the 2 inch mark.
2 and
No, it's 1 in.
1 7/8.
It is 1 7/8. See that 7/8 you can say because that's as easy as it gets. How about letter M? Letter M. Somebody out there in the Tyler. Letter M. In the book, sir. On page 278. We on 278? Did I say 278?
Yeah.
Letter M. 278. Letter M. 2 whole inches in what fraction of the... No, you don't have to measure. It's already measured. That's where the arrow's pointing. The arrow's already pointing to a ruler. You don't need to use yours. 2 and how many eighths?
3.
It is 2 and 3/8. Well done. How about letter N? Andrew, letter N is
3 and
3 and what?
3 and 1.
It is 3 and 1/8. And then letter O, Jacob. Three whole inches and what fraction of that other one?
3 and 3/4.
It is. It is. And again, the confusing thing for you right now is this. Your ruler is in 16ths, but they said to do this. So the book is not letting you do the 16ths. You're actually doing it to the nearest 8. So all of these marks are gone on the ruler they gave you on the book. these marks are not there. They took away all the 16th marks that are above. So this one went to 3 and 7/8 there. Are you with me on that? Now you get to use your rulers. Please make sure, children, when you measure a line, that you put the end of the line not on the end of the ruler, but where the black line is. There's a little. You will be off by a little bit if there's a little bit of white showing there. When you put your ruler up there, it has to touch the end of the black, where the black lines start, not, because sometimes there's a little white piece right here. You don't put it measured up to that end. You measure it up to the black line right there. So measuring to the nearest eighth, by the way, letter P. How long is letter P? And you have to kind of put it on the bottom of your ruler. It's a little goofy, but letter P. I will give you a clue. It's 3 whole inches long, right?
Yeah.
And then Sam
And 2/8.
can't say 2/8.
8.
2/8 is,
Oh, 1/4.
yep, you have to say it. It is 3 and 1/4. You have to say it. How about letter Q? How about Q? Give you a chance to measure there. Letter Q. Colin?
2.5.
2.5 is correct, yes. Letter R. Letter R. Trevor?
1 and 9/16.
Can't use the word measuring to the nearest eighth. 16th is not in our vocabulary yet. So you either got to go to the line above 16, 9/16, or the one below, whatever one is closest to it. 9/16 is right here. It's not part of it. You got to go here to here. Which one are we going with? Are we going 1/2 or 5/8? One of the two.
1/2.
Anybody else get half? My book actually has 5/8.
That's right.
But your rulers could be a little off, so I'll give you a little bit of forgiveness there. Got that? Now, once we've done the hard stuff, now we talk the easy stuff. The metric system measurement. I don't really have to blow it up for you there, but listen carefully to this. So here is your centimeter. If this is 1 centimeter, whoever was the smart person that decided to come up with this measurement system said, hey, it's easy to work with tens, so let's take a centimeter, which is about the width of your pinky, about the width of your pencil, that's about a centimeter, and cut it into 10 equal pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and each one of those is, what is each one of those? 1 millimeter. Okay, and the nice thing about that is this. Let's say I have a line, and I measure it, and it is 35 millimeters long. And I ask you to give that to me in centimeters. If you look at your ruler, let's find it here, up to the top, where's my ruler? 35 millimeters. Hold on. Through the beauty of the board, watch this.
Whoa.
Let me put a line up here. Here is my 35 millimeter line. Or, let's say that's close enough. And I told you, listen carefully, this is my 30, this is my 35 millimeter line. Okay, because if I counted, and you don't really have to count because it's 10, 20, 30, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I said I want you to write it in centimeters. Well, in centimeters, it's 1 whole centimeter, 2 whole centimeters, 3 whole centimeters, and what part of the rest? It is 1/2, but listen to me carefully. As a matter of fact, we're going to write this down. You never, comma, know no, comma, not ever use fractions in the metric system. And that's what this is. This is the metric system because it's based on meters. You will never say 3 1/2. Bad. Okay, because fractions are rarely anybody's friends, and we don't need to use fractions. Okay. You will. Anybody know what I do? Because it's really easy. Colin?
You do 1/16.
That's still a fraction, sir. Everybody look up here because this is the world's easiest thing to do. To change millimeters into centimeters, you just do this. You have the same digits. You just put a decimal between the two numbers. Because this is 3 5/10 or 1/2 of the next one, but we say 5/10. This is 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 3.5. Let me give you another for example of that. So if you had 67 millimeters, how many centimeters will that be? Never will it be in fraction form. You will say, Maggie?
6.77.
6.7. How easy is that? Or 6 7/10 is how we say it, but 6.7 is what. Never will we use fractions. What about 79 millimeters? 79 millimeters is? Jacob?
7.9
centimeters. Now, lest we get confused, what if we go the other way? What if I say something is 8.6 centimeters, and I want to know how many millimeters it is? In other words, here's my 8.6 from here to here. How many millimeters is 8.6 centimeters? Any thought?
86.
Very good. You just take the decimal away, and it's 86 millimeters. It's a lot easier than what you're going to end up doing here in our little U.S. system. What about 10.9 centimeters? How many millimeters would that be? Colton?
109.
109. Correct.
Maybe.
Now, looking back into the book here, look at letter A. Which, by the way, I think they all nicely even. Letter A says to give in centimeters and millimeters. How many centimeters / millimeters is letter A? How many centimeters and millimeters is letter A? Centimeters, millimeters. Centimeters, millimeters. Julia?
3 centimeters.
And how many millimeters?
3.
Nope, can't be the same. There's 10 millimeters for every 1 centimeter. So 30, there you go. 3 and 30. How about letter B? Frankie?
6 centimeters.
How many millimeters?
60.
Now you're talking with peanut oil, canola oil. What kind of oil we found? Sunflower seed oil. Letter C then is, Trevor?
9 centimeters.
9 centimeters and how many millimeters?
90.
90. Now letter D says, oh you can't. You don't have a ruler long enough for that.
Well, no, you could add up the set.
You could add them up, but let's not. Letter E, 1 centimeters, how many millimeters, Sam? 1 centimeters, how many millimeters? No, letter F. No, letter E. You're not measuring. The question is 1 centimeters, how many millimeters? 1 centimeters, how many millimeters? You can look at your ruler. Look, 1 centimeter, how many millimeters? 10. Jordan then, I'll let you go with letter F. How many millimeters is 5 centimeters?
50.
Oh, and then letter G says the abbreviation for centimeter and millimeter. I think you probably know that, don't you? Centimeter. Good deal. Okay. Now we can do lesson 44. That will be your assignment, lesson 44.
So now we have like